My name is Carol Meredith. I'm the Executive Director here at the ARC of Arapahoe and Douglas, and today we're doing a video presentation on the Elderly, Blind, and Disabled Waiver, also known as the EBD waiver. So let me get rid of some of the technical stuff. So this video presentation is an introduction to the Elderly, Blind, and Disabled waiver in Colorado. We have done our best to ensure the accuracy of the information you're about to hear, but it's as of July 2016, so keep that in mind. The ARC of Arapahoe and Douglas is providing this video as a public service to families. Only you can decide if this is the right waiver for you or your family member. The ARC of Arapahoe and Douglas is a private, nonprofit membership organization that exists to better the lives of people with developmental disabilities and their families. We are not a government agency. We provide advocacy, information, education, and support to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. Okay. So let's do the EBD waiver. The home and community-based waiver for persons who are elderly, blind, or disabled provides assistance to people aged 65 and older who have functional impairment or are blind, and, so this is the part where you come in, and to people ages 18 to 64 who are living with a physical disability and require long-term supports and services in order to remain in a community setting. This waiver is not specifically geared for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but some people with IDD could qualify for this waiver. So that's why we're sharing this information with you by video. This waiver is accessed through a different single entry point than the Community Center Board. So the other waivers that we talk about in the different videos on our website, most of those go through the single entry point called the Community Centered Board. This waiver does not. All right, so here are the eligibility requirements for the EBD waiver. There are financial and functional eligibility requirements. So the financial requirements is that the person has to be determined by the County Department of Social Services in which their application resides to be financially eligible. So for instance, if you live in Arapahoe County, you would go to the Arapahoe County Department of Human Services to prove financial eligibility. Douglas County, you go to Douglas County Human Services. In general, a single applicant may not have more than $2,000 in resources, and they can't have a monthly income above $2,199. So it's a low-income program. Keep that in mind. Other factors are age, like we talked about, the eligibility age. If you're a certain age, you can access. Marital status may be an issue, and disability status may be an issue. All right, the functional eligibility requirements. An applicant must be found to need moderate or greater assistance in the following areas: bathing, dressing, toileting, mobility, transfers, eating, and or remember, supervision due to unsafe behaviors or memory or cognition issues. So that's where folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities can get qualified under this waiver if they don't have a lot of physical disabilities. An applicant must, however, meet the nursing facility level of care guidelines. So there's an actual sort of screen that professionals can do to determine whether you or your son or daughter meets the nursing facility level of guidelines. Don't let that scare you, because your perception of what a nursing facility level of care guideline may not be what this assessment and or screen would tell a professional. Okay, as always, we here at the ARC are very concerned about individuals, people. We're person-centered, and we know that just because you've met one person with a particular disability label, you've met one person with that particular disability label. So everybody's different. Everybody's got their own strengths and needs, and so we offer you some questions to think about for your son or daughter. What does your son or daughter want to be? What do they want to accomplish in life? What services do they need to get there? Can they be left alone in the home? What will they do during the day? Can they do this alone, or do they need support? Will EBD services enhance their quality of life? You may have a choice in which waiver services you access, so you want to look at the services, and we're going to go over those, to see if those particular services would enhance the quality of life for your son or daughter. A good thing to know is the Elderly, Blind, and Disabled waiver, or the EBD waiver, currently does not have a waiting list. Okay, so as you thought about those questions, then think about them a little more in depth. If your son or daughter cannot spend any time alone, how will they be supervised or cared for if the waiver can't cover all the hours when the parents or other natural supports are unavailable or working? This waiver isn't meant to cover 24/7 necessarily, okay? Think about that. If your son or daughter has a hard time expressing their preferences, what experiences would be helpful for people to observe, to guess on those preferences? You may want to do some experimentation with some of these waiver services. Your son or daughter may be placed in different environments through these service options, and you can start to see what their preferences are. So think about that. Think about the environments. Are busy, noisy environments good, or are those bad? Typically, people have a preference. Does your son or daughter thrive in predictable routines and schedules? Or do they like surprises and novelty? It's not good or bad one way or the other. It's just who they are. But choosing services and service providers, it can make a difference if you know these things about your son or daughter, or you have a pretty good idea. What about medical needs, allergies, skilled nursing care, stamina, activity levels? What about sensory issues, lighting, noise, temperature, colors? What about mental health needs? Are behavioral services needed? If not, how about actual psychiatric mental health kinds of services? Does your son or daughter have a strong work ethic? They may. They may like to be busy all day, every day, doing lots of tasks, or they may not. They may be people who like to sit on the sidelines and observe, or just be a part of something without being actively engaged in task completions. And how about their just general nature? Do they enjoy helping other people or animals, or not? No judgment one way or the other, but it's good to think about who they are. Okay, so now we're getting into some more of the drier, nitty-gritty kinds of things about the EBD waiver. This is going to describe the level of care assessment, the guidelines for level of care. Okay. For this waiver, a person will come out and do an assessment to determine if the individual is eligible. And the assessment information is obtained through a face-to-face visit and care manager observations. So the care manager, case manager will be observing the person in their home environment. And they'll also ask questions of collateral contacts. These are typically people like, parents, brothers and sisters, sons or daughters for the elderly folks. An individual's need for assistance with housekeeping, meal preparation, and/or laundry are considered in planning for a client's services needs. However, these factors alone do not determine functional eligibility. Medical information provided by a physician is also required for the EBD Medicaid waiver. Okay, so think about those questions. Who is your son or daughter? How might these services help them to actualize their dreams and visions for their life? One of the there's a list of services in your handouts. So I'm going to talk about each one in depth. Adult daycare is one of the services that's offered by this waiver. These are day centers where clients have the opportunity to interact with other people and participate in a variety of activities. So it's a place. Meals are usually served. They can attend all day or half days. And unfortunately for our population, the typical population in these adult day care centers are seniors. There are some agencies that provide adult daycare that also cater to younger people. So be sure and check it out because there are some. There's just not a lot. Non-medical transportation is a service. It provides the client with access to non-medical community services. So transportation to regular medical appointments is provided by the Medicaid state plan, and it's accessed through a completely different agency. But for people who need to go grocery shopping or get out and go to the library or whatever, non-medical transportation is really helpful. And especially if you're accessing one of these adult day care settings, transportation to that might be make or break for you. So there's shopping and all of those kinds. It's banking. It's anything that will help that person not have to be institutionalized in a nursing home. Okay. Another one is homemaker. I think you'll get this. Cooking, cleaning, shopping, laundry, and other homemaker chores, right? It's not, they don't do deep cleaning or anything like that, but they do keep things maintained. A personal care provider, or a PCP. Personal care is like bathing, dressing, mobility, transfers, hygiene. It can also include some of those homemaker duties that we talked about. But personal care in this case cannot be skilled care. So if your son or daughter qualifies for a certified nursing assistant level of care and or an LPN or RN level of care, those services cannot be provided through the waiver, but those services can be provided through the Medicaid state plan home health benefit. Personal care providers are not meant to provide companionship, financial management, and transportation for clients under this waiver. Okay, the next one is relative personal care provider, or an RPCP. We have to make an acronym of everything. So this is where a relative can provide that personal care that we just talked about. They must perform some aspect of the personal care. They cannot be paid for performing homemaker duties, okay? So you would have to take that out of the equation if a relative was providing the personal care. And there is a limit. It's 37 hours a month. Home modifications. So this home modifications is a benefit under the waiver. It provides alterations to make the client's home more accessible. So wheelchair ramps, quick grab bars, stair glides, bathroom remodels, all those kinds of things that may be necessary for a home. Now, this is not a vehicle, this is a home, to be modified to make it more accessible. Again, this is to prevent someone from having to be institutionalized. There is a limit on this service also, and that is $14,000. It's a lifetime limit. So you can, the entire time you're on the elderly, blind, and disabled waiver, you will only be able to access that $14,000. So you want to plan and budget accordingly. Okay. Personal emergency response system. This is a lifeline system to allow access to help in case of a fall, injury, or an emergency. You've probably seen it on TV as like, I've fallen and I can't get up, those kinds of things. There's a broad variety of personal emergency response systems that are out there on the market now, because we have such amazing technology nowadays that people can access. But you have to remember that the client must have the mental and the physical ability to use the unit if it's needed. So first of all, they have to need it, and then they either have to have the mental wherewithal or the physical wherewithal to be able to use it in order to access this waiver benefit. Medication reminders. It provides reminders to clients to take their medications. Again, amazing technology is now available for medication reminders. It has to be set up by an RN through long-term home health, or a family member or a friend at no cost. So the family member or friend could set up the medication reminder boxes and or dispenser thing, but they can't be paid to do that setup. And again, there's just lots and lots of different kinds of machines and technology available for medication reminders. Now this is an interesting one. This is an alternative care facility. It's also known as assisted living. I think some of you have probably heard about assisted living. An alternative care facility is centers, homes, apartments, where the clients have all their needs met through an assist from an alternative care facility staff member or staff members. There may be multiple ones. The client must pay room and board, about $675 per month. And all the services that we just talked about are provided through that ACF. It's often used when clients are still independent but are needing more extensive care than if they were in their own homes. So that's a way to have a residential kind of setting within the EBD waiver. Respite care. So respite care is taking a break from providing care for an individual with long-term care needs. This respite care is having someone, so like if you're taking care of your son or daughter and you need to go out of town for 3 or 4 days to do whatever, take a vacation, take care of other family members, you need to go have some medical care done, whatever. You can get respite care under this waiver, so it's someone else to come in and take care of the individual. Respite care under this waiver can be provided at either a nursing home, an alternative care facility that we just talked about, or in their home, your home. It allows for caregiver relief when the family is unable to care for them during an emergency, vacation, etc. There's a maximum of 30 total days per certification year of respite available under this waiver. So 30 days per year. In-home respite is limited to approximately 9 hours and 45 minutes per day. 9 hours and 45 minutes per day. Okay. Now this waiver has some different service delivery models attached to it that some of the other waivers don't have. So I'm going to briefly go over those. We're not going to go in depth into how you would use these, but I wanted you to know that they exist. One service delivery model is called Consumer Directed Attendant Support Services, or CDAS. Under this service delivery model, clients are given an allocation amount based on needed personal care tasks. So there's an assessment done, and then you're given a budget, an amount of money that you're able to spend. The client, the person, or their authorized representative will need to hire, fire, supervise, and train these attendants that you would be able to pay with this budget allocation. You also have to set wages and manage the hours to budget. So you can't overspend your budget. You can't pay people more than you can afford. You can hire family members and unskilled attendants who can provide skilled care under CDAS. So this is being used by people who have some really significant skilled care needs under a medical kind of model, not necessarily a behavioral model. You have to really think medical with this. So people even with trachs, vents, oxygen, G-tubes, all those kinds of things. Under the CDAS model, you can take what the waiver would pay for personal care needs, the hygiene, bathing, dressing, eating, all those kinds of things, as well as the budget that you would get for skilled home health care, like CNA, RN, LPN. And if you have somebody who can act as the authorized rep, you can hire and fire people and train those people to provide those skilled care tasks without having to have them licensed as a CNA or an RN. Some people find this as a great benefit to them. Some people find it just too much to manage. But again, you are who you are, and you'll know if this is an important service delivery model that you might want to try. The second service delivery model under this waiver that's available is called In-Home Support Services, or IHSS. So in this service delivery model, the agency and the client build a care plan. So you would go to an agency that's an IHSS agency. You would build a care plan based on your budget. You would also have the single entry point case manager there to ensure that the care plan meets the long-term care Medicaid regulations. And you would develop a care plan. Under IHSS, the client or the individual's authorized rep chooses the agency and the attendants. The client helps train and supervise attendants, but they don't have to do it all like they do under CDAS. Family members and spouses can be attendants up to 40 hours a week. There is a cap on the amount of hours per week family members can work, and that's 40 hours a week under IHSS. And health maintenance activities. Health maintenance activities is a code for skilled care. So think RN, CNA, LPN, skilled medical care. And under IHSS, you can hire and have unlicensed people providing those skilled medical tasks, as long as they're really well trained, right, for your individual. The agency that's involved in this helps the client hire, train, pay attendance, bill the care plan, and they help them figure out a backup plan. So if something happens to one of the family members who is providing care, they'll make sure that there's somebody to back you up and come in and take care of the individual if you're not able to as a parent or family member. Okay. So that is the basics of the Elderly, Blind, and Disabled Waiver, or EBD. Please make sure and call us if you have any questions or concerns. We're here to help. Thank you.